Sup, nerds, and welcome back to the Helpware Nerds podcast. Today, we're talking about one of the topics that is the nearest and dearest to my heart, and actually stems from a look through on the podcast. Now, as you'll have probably noticed about the podcast as of late, we've been going back through some of our old catalogue and basically doing a bit of inventory. It's what led up to the 50th episode. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. I'm very proud of that episode. But what brought us to this one is we noticed in our little description that describes the podcast and everything like that you put out on all podcast directories and things like that, so people know what you're doing. We talked about how we would talk about TCGs, and for those of you that don't know, a TCG is a trading card game, and we haven't really done that. Besides a couple of unboxing videos over here on the YouTube channel, and the occasional mention about how some of us here at Helpware Nerds are Magic the Gathering players or Yu-Gi-Oh players, Pokémon players, we haven't really dived into the world of TCG at all. Like, it's not really been a topic we've touched upon besides a little dip of our toe. And I'm here today to change that. And we're going to start with the system, the game that changed the landscape, that literally changed the game. Magic the Gathering, which is widely considered by most people to be the first TCG, predating Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And yep, that means while it's not as mainstream, Magic the Gathering did come first. So, let's get into it. What exactly is Magic the Gathering and how do you play it? Well, as I said, Magic the Gathering is a trading card game created by Wizards of the Coast and Richard Garfield in 1993. It's older than I am. That's how insane Magic the Gathering is. It's literally a few years older than I am, and it's one of the most insane things. It has a vast array of multiverses and worlds that it visits. That's how its sets work. So basically, with Magic the Gathering, instead of just releasing new cards with pretty art and abilities on them, Magic built a lore around them where it's a vast multiverse, and you yourself assume the role of a multiversal traveler known as a planeswalker, and your deck isn't a deck, it's a library full of spells and things that you can swing at your opponent, who is also a planeswalker, and you're battling across. That's the in-universe concept of how it's supposed to work. You can also summon other planeswalkers, such as the most iconic ones being like a Johnny and Jace. Nico Bolas became a planeswalker during the War of the Spark, but he's lost his spark. This is a lot of lore. You can find that on the Magic the Gathering podcast or YouTube or anywhere you want to find Magic the Gathering lore. There are dedicated places to find lore, and Magic has become a bit wider and dipped its toe into other fandoms outside its own IP as of late with its Universes Beyond line. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate on Universes Beyond. I know it's a hot button issue in the Magic the Gathering space, but this is a beginner friendly video, so I'm not going to dive into that hot topic in this episode. Just know that if you are diving into Magic the Gathering and you did find yourself coming in through Avatar The Last Airbender or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Final Fantasy or any of the Universes Beyond lines that will be coming out, such as the Marvel Heroes line that will be coming out very soon in June, or The Hobbit that's due to come out this year, or Star Trek that's also due to come out this year, you will be greeted with debate on whether Universes Beyond is a good thing or a bad thing for the Magic the Gathering space. For this video, I will remain neutral on that topic. If you do want a discussion on that topic, do leave a comment down below and we can debate that out reasonably. I'm not here to get into any arguments, but we can get into a nice debate about that topic, which would be a little bit of a fun. So, yeah, just to acknowledge it, but move it off to the side because that is not the purpose of this episode. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Magic the Gathering is a trading card game with its own lore and now universes beyond where you can play Spider-Man if you so wish to, which is really cool. And then you build your own deck. Depending on the format you're playing, I will talk about the 3 most popular according to the Magic the Gathering website in a little while. And you build your deck and you battle your opponents strategically using your spells, creatures, and other cards such as artifacts, enchantments, and things like that to reduce. The main goal is to reduce their life total to 0. However, there are other ways to win. They are a little bit more complicated. I will briefly touch on them. I won't really go into how you do that, but basically, you can mill somebody out, which means to have them have no cards left in their library or deck when they go to their draw step on their turn, and if that happens, then they lose the game. Or you can poison them. There are special cards that can give someone a poison counter, and if that happens, then if they reach 10 poison, they are out of the game as well. There are other cards that just say you win, but again, that's few and far between. The main aim of the game is to be strategic and reduce a person's life total down to 0. From 20 if you're in standard, 40 if you're in commander. So that is the main aim of the game there. And the biggest and most fun part of Magic the Gathering is its customization. So I love how customizable Magic the Gathering actually is. You can choose exactly what cards you put in your deck. So for me personally, I just built a new commander deck and I built it around Niv-Mizzet Prerune. He is one of my favorite legendaries that I own, and building that deck was so much fun. I just took a bunch of cards that I already owned and threw it together. I haven't had a ton of time to playtest it, so I don't know how well it works, but it did pretty well on the first game round, so we'll see if it holds up in future. And I will let you guys know over on the Discord how it held up, if that is something you guys want to see. But yeah, with that being said, that is the main crux of Magic, how customizable it is. Now, if you're not someone who is avidly into customization, or you're very, very new and you're not sure on how to do it, there are products out there that will take that step out of your hands and really help with this section. You can get pre-constructed decks for Commander from virtually every set. There have been a few sets as of late that can have Commander decks. Then there are quite a few early sets that don't have commander decks, but most modern sets do come with a commander deck. And then there are your little starter sets where you get 2 60-card standard decks where you and a friend can battle it out and it will walk you through how to play. That is how I learned to play. I got one of those decks myself, and I learned to play with my cousin, and that was so much fun. And then I went to my local LGS or game store and learned to play standard from there, and then progressed to commander. And from that, I just carried on. And I learned more about Commander through watching actual play shows such as Command Zone, Commander at Home, and things like that, and watching a bunch of uh, Magic the Gathering focused YouTube channels like Tailoring Community College or Ristic Studies and things like that. So there are a bunch of resources you can find over on YouTube that will help you learn the game a bit more better than what I can really explain it in this moment. But no matter what format of Magic the Gathering you play, every game will play out according to these simple steps. So you'll start the game and untap all your lands and everything that needs untapping. Every deck will be equipped with lands. These are your source to play every single card in your deck beyond your lands. The only thing you do not have to pay lands or mana for to play are your lands. And then everything else will have a cost to them that you tap your lands to be able to play. You play a land per turn if you're able to. So it goes untap, upkeep. If you have a card that says there is a trigger in your upkeep, then that is where it will trigger. Then you draw. That is where you draw a card from your deck. And this is the step that I usually forget about. So much so that a friend of mine bought me a playmat that literally has draw in big letters. So, yeah. Uh, so, as we were saying, untap, upkeep, draw. Then you go to your main phase. This is where you can play creatures and spells and anything that's at sorcery speed. Anything that's at sorcery speed includes sorceries, creatures, artifacts, things like that. Then you have your combat phase. This is where you do your attacks and attack your opponents. If you're in a commander game, you'll have multiple choices. If you're in a standard game, it'll be one opponent, for example. And then you have your second main phase, very similar to the first main phase. This is where you can cast things at sorcery speed, or you can cast instances in both of these. Instances can be cast at any point. Uh, and then you have your end phase, which is where you end your turn. There might be some triggers that trigger on your end phase or your end step, and then you move to discard. If you have more than 7 cards in your hand and you don't have a card on the field that says you're allowed more than 7 cards in hand, you must discard down to hand size. And that is how a turn in Magic the Gathering, regardless of format, will work. Mulligans, depending on format, can vary. In Magic the Gathering Commander, you get a free mulligan for your first one, so you have 7 cards. If you don't like your hand, you can put the 7 cards back and then draw 7 again. That is your free mulligan. Again, if you don't like that second hand, you can go down to 6, and then so on and so on and so on until you get to 0 cards in hand. Not advisable in things like standard or pre-release, and I think it's the same for draft and others. You have 7 cards. If you don't like it, you put it back and you go to 6, and so on until you get to 0. Again, 0 is not advisable. It means you have nothing to play the game with. So I would stick to going as low as 3, and that would be the cutoff. But that is my personal preference. You might have your own. That is kind of how it really works. Without showing you how to play it fully, that would, with another person, that would be the best way to do it. And I will link some of the channels that I've just mentioned in the description down below, so you can go find their videos that walk you through how to play. Now, Magic isn't like most games where there are a bunch of cards and you can just shove any cards in there. There are distinct colors in Magic the Gathering called the color pie, and there are 5 of them. 6 if you count colorless, but 5 distinct colors, which are green, blue, red, black, and white. And they each have their own philosophies and play styles that interact with the game in a different way. And we'll go through what each one does now. So, green is about big creatures. So think dinosaurs, think giants, think things with heavy attack and big butts. This is one of the first creatures I got was Gilta Primal Hunger, and he had like 12. He was a big guy, and the more big guys you had, the cheaper he was to play. So strong. It's also about nature, and with Magic, when you play a card, you tap the land for mana, and these land cards are special cards that you can have that you have in your deck that you play on the field. They don't really do anything other than tap for mana and allow you to play your creatures. Think of it as like a spell component in D&D, or a a wand in Harry Potter, or I'm trying to think of analogies that I can use for it, or drawing your power from something to use. So or like when, or the arc reactor for Iron Man, like how he draws the power to power the Iron Man suit. The lands power your deck. Without the lands, you can't cast your creatures and spells. But your green lands tap for your green stuff, white lands for white spells, blue for blue, black for black, and red for red. And you get what I mean. So, but there are creatures, and you tend to find these in green that tap for mana as well. The most iconic that I can think of is Llanowar Elves. When you tap a Llanowar Elf, you get a green mana, and then you can use that mana to cast other creatures. So green is all about getting big things out and being the strongest person on the board. It's a very beginner-friendly playstyle because it's just about big, beefy guys coming in and smacking your opponent in the face. I started out with green and progressed into the style that I liked further down the line. But green is a very easy, not easy, but green is the easiest one to understand when you're new to the game. I personally think is what I'm trying to say. I was stumbling over my words there. But then there is white. White is all about teamwork, defense, and balance, and life gain. I would add that to there. Life, life is a precious resource as well, and white is very good at helping you keep your life up. So it has a lot of creatures that can uh, gain you life with a keyword known as lifelink. It will hit your opponent, and then you will gain life. And that's really cool. You also have a lot of cards that synergize really well with each other to work as a team, hence the teamwork part. And a lot of board wipes and things like that tend to be in white, and a lot of like +1/+1 counters and building up things and being very defensive tend to be in white. Now, blue is the one that everyone online will tell you they hate. I'm a blue player. I love blue, but blue is the one that everyone would online will tell you they hate. Blue is the strategy, control, and thinking ahead color. It's the one where you have counter spells and things where you tend to leave your mana open so that you can just either bluff your way to be like, maybe I've got something, maybe I don't, or it's the one where you literally do have something. So, say, like I said, white has a board wipe. They cast it, and you're like, "No, I'm gonna cancel that," and you cast a spell to remove that from the field. And blue is very battlefield controlly, tapping things down, bouncing them back to someone's hand, countering it, and things like that. It's the one that most people groan when you play a blue, because it, it's a little bit, I think it's harder to get your head around than green, because instead of just raw I hit, it's you're actually having to observe what people are doing and then playing strategically your cards properly. And it's one that I'm still struggling to get my head around, but I really do enjoy playing it. Black is all about power at any cost. So this is your sacrifice, dark magic, and revival. So graveyard mechanics, getting things back out of the graveyard. That's where you'll find this in black. It will tend to have a lot of reanimation in there. You'll also have a lot of killing spells and a lot of s- life drain effects. So, like, it might be on you, it might be on an opponent. But, like I said, life is a valuable resource, so you can give up life to cast bigger things in black. And black is like making a deal with the devil. It's like you may lose your life total by half. However, you've just cast the biggest thing on the board. You've just nuked the entire board, and no one can cast anything, but you can. And yeah, it costs you half your life total, but who cares? Because you're probably going to win in the next turn anyway. It's that sort of thing. It's like, do you risk it because you're sacrificing something for your own benefit? It's dark magic. And then red. Red is the speed, aggression, and fast. It's all about getting things out as fast as possible and hitting as fast as possible. Red is where you'll find the most hasty creatures, where they come in ready to attack. So most things when you play them can't attack the turn they come in. However, red tends to have the most cards with the keyword haste, where they can come in and smack you in the face the turn they come in. If you've played Lorcana, it's like being readied the turn that they come in, and they're ready to go, and just they have rush basically, and they could just boom, smack you in the face, done. And there's that, and it's also got a lot of damage spells that directly hit your opponents, and things like that. It's the aggressive play style. It's the one that wants to do the most damage. Where green is the one that wants to bring out the biggest creatures and stomp a person with the biggest creatures. It's a bit slower because bigger creatures tend to cost more, where red is all about speed and getting things out as quickly as possible. So they might be lower power, however, you'll have more of them in a quicker period of time. So that's how they all play out. You'll, uh, there's a bit more to it when you start combining them, but that's a basic breakdown of each one and what each one can do, and how each playstyle can really work, at least to my knowledge. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a different understanding of each color within the color pie. As I said, there is colorless as well, but that tends to just be like artifacts and artifact creatures. They don't really have a archetype to them the same way that the colors do. Unless you disagree with me, again, let me know down in the comments down below if you think colorless does have an archetype and I just missed it. But those are the archetypes the way I see them for the color pie. Now, as I touched on, Magic the Gathering is more than a game. It is a fleshed out story from beginning to end, and each set tells a chapter of that story. I think when I jumped on in the War of the Spark era, there was a big storyline going on about Nicol Bolas, one of the biggest villains in Magic the Gathering's history, trying to become a god and a planeswalker. Planeswalkers are, as I said, beings that can move between universes, and it was kind of like Magic the Gathering Infinity War, and it was a really cool storyline and concept that was being played out. But as I said, I'm not an expert on the lore, so you can go find that where the lore is. I will link that again, like I said with the other channels, in the description down below. So if you are inclined to find out how to on the lore, you can actually go look into the lore and see where we are now. The last thing I knew about the lore is that Jace kind of broke reality in attempt to stop the Phyrexians. So, and that will play out in the upcoming in-universe set Reality Fracture. So that's going to be fun. So as we kind of touched on, how do you actually play? Now, I said we were going to talk about the main ones that Magic the Gathering on their website said were the most popular, and these are Commander, Standard, and Boost Draft. Commander is the format I'm most familiar with. Commander is a format where you can play against 4 or more players or 3. Basically, anything above 2 players or more, you play a game with 100 cards and 1 legendary. The legendary card is your commander. So in the example I gave earlier, Niv Mizzet Prerune is my legendary creature. He has an ability that whenever I draw a card, it pings my opponent for 1 damage, and I can draw a card whenever anyone casts an instant or sorcery. So that's why I chose him as my commander, because whenever I cast a spell, an instant or sorcery that isn't a creature, I will draw a card and I will ping a target for 1 damage. Whenever my opponent does the same, I will I will draw a card and ping an opponent for 1 damage, or any target. So it it's a good synergy, and people tend to work around that. When it comes to Commander, you can only build the Commander deck based on the color identity of your Commander, your legendary creature. So, again, using my example of Niv Mizzet Prerune, his color identity is red and blue, so I can only build a red and blue deck. If you were going to build a Y'shtola deck, you could only build, I think it's black, white, and blue. And so on and so forth. So if you were going to build a Gilsa deck, you can only build a green deck. Those are the rules around color identity in Commander. They have to match the color identity of the legendary that you choose. And once you've done that, you build 99 cards in the deck plus your legendary, so a 100 card deck in total, and you battle it out. Now, as I said, the goal of any game in Magic is to reduce a person's life total down to 0. However, Commander has a secondary rule known as Commander damage. This is where your Commander can, when it deals damage, deals a second pool of damage. Now, it's not reduced off your life total separately, but you count it separately on a second dice, and if it reaches 21, they lose the game regardless of whether their life total is at 0 or not, because in Commander you have 40 life as you are playing against more than one opponent, and if you reach 21 life subtracted only by the Commander, you are dead, and that's that. Commander is also a social aspect and a politic aspect. So the way it works is there's 4 of you at a table. You're all playing the game, and you're all trying to get at each other. But say one of you has massive board state straight away, and the rest of you are lagging behind. Maybe you didn't draw the land you needed. Maybe you didn't draw the cards that would have matched the other player. You can then talk to the other 2 players and make a deal to take out that player. And once you've done that, you guys can then battle it out amongst yourselves. That's why Commander is one of my favorite formats. Rather than just being I smack you, you smack me, there is a little bit of a camaraderie and, oh, this guy's scary. Shall we take this guy out? Yep. Okay. I can deal with this. Can you deal with that? Yep. Okay. Well, if I deal with that, will you not attack me? That sort of thing. That's why I like Commander. And I feel like that's why Commander became so popular. This basic backwards and forwards of being able to balance each other out. When it comes to the decks, you're only allowed one copy of each card in a Commander deck, except for lands. Lands are the exception. And you can build the 99 from that. Okay, the second most popular, Standard. Standard is the go-to format for more competitive play. A 1v1 match, minimum 60 card deck using only the most recent sets. It's part of a rotation, so you'd have to check up on what's in the current rotation for Standard, which rotates and sets each year. It's always evolving to make sure that it's fresh and you haven't got the entire 30-year backlog in your catalog of cards that you have to look through. And it's a good way to improve your skills and aim for tournaments. It's a great way to start the game. It's how I started the game. I started in Standard and learned Standard. Color pairing is still important, so you can't just smush every single color into a deck. And it's best to look at which color pairs work together. I tend to like Is It or blue and red, and putting those together. Hence why my favorite Commander deck is the Mizzet Prey Rune and stuff like that, because it's got the aggressive side of red and the strategic side of blue. So I do really like that. But you've got your other pairings. There are also 3-color pairings and things like that. And you're better off just looking into which one works for you. I'm not going to tell you which one to do. That is a personal choice and things like that. For this, unlike Commander, where you can only have one card with its unique name in the deck, Standard allows you to have 4 copies of that card in the deck and build around a specific strategy. So say you really, really, really like a specific Spider-Man card, or you really, really like a specific Avatar card, because those are the ones that are popping into my head, probably because I can see Spider-Man behind my head. You can just put 4 copies of that card in your deck, which gives you more chance to draw it, which helps with the competitive edge of Standard. The third most popular archetype and format for Magic the Gathering, according to their website, is Booster Draft. And this one flips everything on its head, because instead of showing up to your local LGS or wherever you're playing Magic the Gathering, with your own deck, you're given a bunch of booster packs and told to build a deck. Now, you're not just given them, everyone's given booster packs, and you pick one card at a time, build your deck on the spot, usually played with 8 players, and each game feels different because, as I said, you're given a booster pack and you choose one card from the booster pack, making your deck different each time you build it. If you've ever been to a pre-release, it's very similar to that, except it's booster, so it's not like in a pre-release kit. Now, I haven't actually ever been to a booster draft myself, and it's something that I'm looking forward to doing in the future, but it is a very intimidating thing for beginners, I personally think. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with me on that. I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about in the comments in this one, but I do think that this one is a very provoking topic for us to talk about, especially with what we're talking about, because Magic the Gathering is a very conversational thing, especially when you're just learning about it. But grabbing your booster packs and picking a card and then passing it on, and then getting another booster pack, grabbing a card, passing on, until you've all got a deck that you can play and is ready to go, feels so cool. And it just amazing for you all to be able to just play a deck that you've never seen before, you've not built, you've not had any time to prepare it, you've not had any time to look up the cards. It's just there in front of you. You've read the cards there on the spot, and you're just like, this one will do, and you play and you have fun. I feel like this one is the most like get to know Magic the Gathering style format possible. It might be a little intimidating because you don't know anything and then you're just thrown with the cards. But then once you get there, you'll learn the cards, and depending on your LGS, you'll probably end up with a bunch of helpful people. That's what happened to me. Now, I can't speak for all LGSs, just my local. Um, so take that with a pinch of salt. Now, there are multiple different ways to play Magic the Gathering. I've mentioned going down to your local LGS and finding a game there and playing it in person. You can also play it in person on your kitchen table with friends or down at local community centers if you know people that would play Magic the Gathering with you. So in person is one way to play. There is also online through Magic Arena, and that will allow you to play and learn Magic the Gathering's mechanics and how it works through an online free game. You can also download it on mobile and use it to play the game that way, and play Magic the Gathering on the go and learn the mechanics just by tapping on the screen and learning how to play it. There is also Spell Table. Spell Table allows you to play Magic the Gathering through your webcam and playing it through streaming with other people and directly to their webcams. So if you have a friend that lives long distance that's a Magic the Gathering player and you're a Magic the Gathering player, you guys can still play together. It's just you can't play in the same local space. So Spell Table is a really cool invention, and to be honest, I think came in handy really, really well during the dreaded years of 2020 and beyond. But with that being said, that is everything I know about Magic the Gathering, and I really hope that I helped and I haven't gone over people's heads and things. But with that being said, if you do have any other questions or things and you want me to answer them, then do drop me a comment down below or come and join us over on Discord and message me over there, and I will answer as many questions as I possibly can on this topic. I love Magic the Gathering. In fact, I'm heading to our local pre-release for Strixhaven this weekend, probably at the time of this video's release. So hopefully I do well, and yeah. With that being said, I'm going to call this video to an end. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and most of all, stay nerdy.